I invite you to stand with us. Let's begin with a word of prayer, and then if you would remain standing, join us in the pledge to the flag. We'll call on Frank to open the meeting with prayer, please.
Let us pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together and honor you, Lord God, with the wisdom and the grace and the love that you have given us, Lord God, by simply being alive. Lord, I ask that you give us the understanding and the wisdom and knowledge that we need to conduct the business of the county, Lord God. And I thank you, Heavenly Father, that you remind us daily that everything we do, Father, we should do unto you. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We do appreciate your attendance today, your interest in the county's business, and we have no public hearings scheduled, but we do have public comment. I'm going to recognize Wendy Mayo. Wendy, if you would come to the podium, and I told her kind of our time constraints, so she's going to.
I'll try to keep it short.
She said she would read fast, so we appreciate you being here. And
I appreciate you giving me a few
Yes,
minutes
ma'am.
of your time. So I'm here today to request that the Covington County Commission consider adopting Section 315A of the Alabama State Code as it relates to permitting dogs to run at large. I can provide you a copy today if you would like. I know just the thought of this change upsets a lot of people. I also know that many locals support such a change, having received many signatures on a leash law petition I created and only briefly circulated, almost entirely via Facebook groups related specifically to Covington County residents. To the people who become upset about the thought of laws changing regarding loose dogs, it's important to me that those people realize that my goal with this change is not to force every friendly loose dog onto a chain or leash. Quite the opposite, actually. My only goal with advocating for this change is to provide a legal recourse for people being terrorized by a dangerous dog. Currently, we have no laws that provide a recourse for people in a dangerous dog situation when they live outside city limits, even in the case where someone has been bitten or seriously harmed by another's dog. There is currently absolutely no recourse that prevents such a dog from being left loose again, nor any law adopted which allows a state agency to come pick up that dangerous dog and get it off the street where it might possibly cause further harm. There is currently absolutely no recourse of any kind for people outside city limits who have neighbors subjecting them to fear of harm on their own property because of their neighbor's unfriendly dog being left loose unsupervised. I have spent the last 2 years running from a pair of such dogs since I moved into the outskirts of Andalusia, to the point I no longer feel safe in my own yard, and I am constantly looking over my shoulder when on my own property. My next door neighbor lives what I would guess to be is about 1,000 feet away, and despite that pretty significant distance, his dogs have been a frequent problem in my life, repeatedly, violently chasing me anytime they are outside and catch a glimpse of me, such as when I go to my mailbox or when I put my trash bin out at the street. My neighbor's dogs have even bolted at me aggressively when I simply tried to access the water spigot on my own property on the corner of my house. I have started driving to my own mailbox out of fear of an altercation with my neighbor's dogs, and you can completely forget about trying to walk your dogs in my neighborhood. It just plain isn't safe. I gave up on walking my dogs in my neighborhood entirely after almost getting violently mauled by a completely different neighbor's dog while walking 2 of my dogs on Sasser Road a year or so ago. To give you a tiny bit of foundation about myself, to make you understand my justified concern for what I've personally witnessed here, I consider myself a bit of a dog expert. I own 5 dogs. I at one time ran a pet care business. I've worked in grooming on more than one occasion. I hope to start ethically breeding in the near future and have my whole life revolve around just breeding and rescue eventually. I dabble in street animal rescue whenever I can. I've taken 5 dogs off the street in my short time here in Alabama. I've taken 2 intensive courses on how to train dogs and how to train people to train dogs. I know the difference between a friendly dog approach versus the approach of a dangerous, unfriendly dog. We without a doubt have dangerous, unfriendly dogs running loose, terrorizing their neighbors, and making it impossible to walk your dogs in the outskirts of the city. Do you know that statistically, the most dangerous animal in Alabama is the domesticated dog? That means more injuries and death are caused here in Alabama by domesticated dogs than any other animal, wild or domesticated. We need laws in place that protect public safety, one right to be in their own yard and walk their dog around their own neighborhood without fear of being attacked by someone's loose, unsupervised, unfriendly dog. Every conceivable effort on my part to find a solution to the dangerous situation I personally found myself in since arriving here was met with the same answer. There's just simply no laws that have been adopted by Covington County for anyone, the sheriff or the district attorney, both of which I've spoken to personally and at length, to be able to enforce in regards to these dangerous dog situations occurring outside city limits. You can file a dogs at large petition with the court, but you won't actually get to have a hearing with the judge because the district attorney just plain doesn't have a single law to enforce and therefore currently cannot prosecute a dogs at large petition if filed. I understand how important it is in Alabama to protect the rights of the people, but sometimes sense dictates that there would be some limited occasions where one right overrides another. This is certainly one of those times. The right to public safety, particularly on one's own property, absolutely must override a dog owner's right to continually allow their dog to be a danger to members of the public. Public safety must be the right that is protected, and I'm asking the Commission to consider adopting Section 315A of the Alabama State Code, which would do just that in regards to the dangerous dog situation we have here in Covington County. To reiterate, the goal here is absolutely not to force every loose dog in this town onto a leash or a chain. My concern is not related to friendly loose dogs. My concern is solely that there be a legal recourse available for residents living outside city limits who find themselves in a dangerous dog situation where their safety has proven to be continually at risk because of a negligent dog owner. Residents have a right to feel safe in their own yard, on property they own, and using the roads in their neighborhood on foot. This change would be a step in the right direction to making Alabama a safer place, one where the domesticated dog is no longer statistically the most dangerous animal. Thank you so much for your consideration today.
All right, good job, we appreciate that. Questions for you?
Yes, sir.
You referenced section 315A.
It's actually 3-1-5A. Would you like me to give it to you?
315A, no, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good right now. So can you give us a brief synopsis of that, what it
What it entails,
seems
that code?
to give us authority to do?
Absolutely. So in my opinion, what it gives authority to do is A, allows the sheriff to act when a dangerous dog situation has been reported. B, allow the dog to be picked up even if the dog is outside limits. And C, give the district attorney a law to enforce that in order to prosecute a justified dogs at large petition when filed with the court. The law 315A says every person owning or having in charge any dog or dogs shall premise or the premises on which such dog or dogs is or are regularly kept. Nothing in this section shall prevent the owner of any dog or other persons or persons having such a dog or their charge from allowing such dog or dogs to accompany such owner or other person or persons elsewhere than on the premises on which such dog or dog is or is regularly kept. Any person violating the law regarding permitting the dog to leave their yard shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and shall be fined not less than $2, no more than $50.
So counties have a very, very limited home rule. One of the few things that can be addressed from the county commission is related to animal control. But there are things that doesn't grant the commission, such as we can't adopt a rule or an ordinance or a law that restricts the use of hunting dogs or that restricts an owner from raising or breeding animals.
So there's actually, if you continue to read after 315A, there's more laws about dogs in the Alabama State Code that goes all the way through 37A. And one of those laws actually addresses hunting dogs. So you might want to consider adopting that same one as well. I think it's right below the 315 that I'm referencing when you look it up in the Alabama State Code.
Okay. We can't limit the raising or keeping of animals for food or fiber production. We can't limit any kind of farming, dogs used in farming operations or animals used in farming operations. So there are a lot of restrictions, but maybe there's something that can be done.
Yes, I think the code
relative to
addresses all of that. If you go beyond just the one section I referenced and read the other stuff related to dogs.
Okay. Anybody have questions at all for Wendy while she's at the microphone?
Yeah, you made comment about the neighbor's dogs being aggressive towards you.
Yes.
And was it where you actually called the sheriff's department? Or
Yes. I spoke to Deputy Pitts, who said he would go and speak to the owner, but I don't think he ever did. When I asked him to confirm if he did so, he did not get back to me. I spoke directly to the actual sheriff, Sheriff Turman, who likewise told me he would go to the owner's house and speak to them, but I never heard back from him if he actually did so. There was a formal report filed with the sheriff's department. I actually have a report number for that somewhere at home. I did file a dogs at large petition with the courthouse and was scheduled a hearing, but when I showed up for that hearing, the district attorney sat me down and showed me this law and said, this law is in the state code, but it hasn't been adopted by your county. Until it is, I have nothing to enforce. I can't prosecute or have a hearing with you on this petition because I do not have a law to enforce it. So I spoke with him pretty at length that day as well.
How many times have you called the sheriff's department on this particular neighbor's dog?
Numerous. I called on the incident I referenced about a different neighbor's dog who I almost mauled me on Sasser Road. I reported that to the sheriff, and I called the sheriff 2 or 3 times about my neighbor's dog, at least 2 or 3 times. One was a formal report, then a couple of follow-ups, and spoke directly to the sheriff via his Facebook. He's got a messenger Facebook.
Have you spoke with a neighbor about your concerns about their dog being over, or?
I have not, because I am a single woman and I am not from this area, and my family has advised me against doing so out of fear that I may show up on this man's doorstep and meet an unfavorable response. So I have not. I did leave a letter on his mailbox when the issue started to become a major issue, saying what was going on and that it couldn't continue because it just wasn't safe, etc. And I did not receive any sort of response, but I did notify him that it was going on.
So what would you, after reading the code section that you referenced, what would be your thoughts on an ideal outcome?
The ideal outcome would be to adopt the entire section of the Alabama State Code, not just the one section I referenced, but 315 through 37. Everything in regards to the Alabama State Code has in regards to dogs at large, including a section to permit hunting dogs and all of that, so that when people outside city limits are in a situation like I have been, where they are in outright danger. If I had children, they couldn't be in my yard. They couldn't play in my yard. It's not safe. So there needs to be a recourse for people like me when they're in a dangerous dog situation to be able to get the sheriff to get involved, to be able to have pickup of the animal, and to be able to have the district attorney have a law in place to enforce and prosecute a dogs at large petition.
Have you videoed any of the dogs?
Sadly, no. This all happens when I'm walking to the mailbox to get my mail, or I'm carting out the big ADSI bin to bring my garbage to the street. Or in the one case I mentioned where I was simply coming off my front porch and going to my spigot on the corner of my house, which is still a significant distance away from his. So no, these were all just me living life and it occurring. I'm not, a Zennial or whatever they're called, that has my phone on my pocket all the time. And they're bolting at me so fast that I could not pull out, even if I had it on me, I could not pull out a phone to record what was happening. I've got to run. They're bolting at me from, I guess, an eighth to a quarter of a mile away as fast as they can, just because I'm at the mailbox.
How long have you lived there?
2 years. I moved from across the country in April.
From day one? This has happened from day one?
It started a few months after I moved here. We had a couple of instances where the dogs chased me when I was walking my dogs, and I had to run about a quarter mile. And then there was a space of time where nothing happened before I started reporting anything. And then when my report started, it was because it was happening over and over and over again. I had a month where we had about 10 occurrences with just me trying to live life in my yard, at my mailbox, putting out the garbage. And that's when I started talking to the sheriff, making the formal reports, going to the courthouse to file the petition, not knowing it wouldn't go anywhere at the time.
Exactly where do you live?
I'm sorry?
Where do you live?
I am in Andalusia, but I'm right on the Babby line. When you take Airport Road, you come out at the stop sign that's right by the Babby Quick Stop, and you go left, and I am a mile down on the right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, you passed County Road 38?
I apologize, but I'm not certain where that intersection is. I've only been in the state a couple of years. I came from New Hampshire a couple of years ago.
Road,
I'm sorry?
between Oscar P. Road, are you close to Oscar P. Road?
What's your address?
No, let's don't give that on here.
Yeah, I don't feel super comfortable with that.
Let's don't.
No, I just kind of wondered where the area was,
Well,
because I live kind of.
I'm on Babby Road, not too far from the convenience store, in between the Babby Quick Stop convenience store, and is it Henderson's, the
Okay.
kind of real
Yeah,
cool
okay.
vintage one?
Okay, all right.
So you're expressing very real concern, we hear that and appreciate that. You're asking us to adopt a section of the code that we need to look at closely, make sure
Definitely.
what the impact of that would be. We need to have input from the sheriff on, enforcement, because enforcement certainly is a big part of it.
Of course.
And I don't know, I don't know how hard that will be. What about your 4 dogs, or 3, whatever?
I actually have 5.
What about your 5 dogs? So if a neighbor says, Mr. Sheriff, I've got a concern about this lady's dogs, I see them in the front yard all the time, and how do you respond to that? How does the sheriff weigh whether yours are a problem or a threat versus a neighbor's as a?
So mine would never be a problem or a threat. I have a fenced-in section of my yard. The dogs are never allowed outside it, plain and simple. So, and the fenced-in section doesn't go anywhere near. My neighbors are a good distance away because we're in the country out there. But my fenced-in area is behind my house and abuts the farmland that's all around me. It's not even near the road or my neighbors.
I
So
think-
someone would have. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Y'all need to look at the code and review it, or
Yeah,
have
we're gonna
somebody do a summation of it, and then you'll see that it had counties in mind. It's not that your dogs can't ever leave your yard. It's supposed to be a remedy for people that live in the county that deal with things. And if you live in the county, at some point, a pack of dogs to me is 2 dogs, because 2 dogs together is like 2 unsupervised teenagers. Things go bad quick. And I can tell you personally, within the last month, I have had 2 cats attacked, a horse, and a baby calf from the same 3 dogs, and there is no remedy. And, well, there is a remedy, but for people that like animals and want to do things the right way, there does need to be something that the sheriff's office can use where they have some power and some tools. Is this it? I don't know, but we definitely need to be looking into it, because it seems to be more of an issue every day.
And I just want to tap into what you just said about the recourse for people who like animals. I think you were tapping into, well, you could shoot them.
Yeah.
You cannot. When I sat down with the district attorney, he told me that the only way that I was not risking criminal prosecuting shooting those dogs is if I had it on video they were mauling me first. And those are his exact words.
I disagree. But
So we agree, well, we agree that there's a problem here and that needs to be addressed, and so we will take your testimony or your story under advisement. We'll ask the attorney to look at it closely at our options, and then we'll have it on the agenda for our future
got some
meetings.
I've got a question
We-
for Blake.
Yeah.
You couldn't just go and visit the neighbor and just speak with him or her about,
I actually have visited the
Okay.
neighbor and everything, and there are some dogs that are quite aggressive.
yeah,
I think the problem is these dogs are, they may be domesticated, but they don't know their boundaries. If that neighbor's dog stayed in his yard, you wouldn't be here
Right.
talking about.
And
that
that's the whole
today.
point of the law. We just want the dangerous ones to be permitted into their own yard.
And also, we do have a problem with feral dogs in the county, and I've had to catch them, is the problem. And I take them up to the, animal shelter, and more than likely they wind up being euthanized. But it would be nice to be able to have something with a little bite, but I will mention that if we have a program, it will require some resources.
Yeah. All right, Ms. Wendy, thank you.
Thank you for giving me a
coming.
few more minutes than
Yes.
allotted. I really appreciate it, and I
All
wish I could stay for your meeting, but I must go to work. Thank you
Okay.
so very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
no ordinance would be your second one to take.
Yeah, okay. Sheriff, anything else you want to share on that particular issue, since you were referenced
Actually,
3 or 4 times? Yeah.
the law was put in place for counties to adopt if they choose to do so. Whatever the commission decides to do, I will support it 100%. But it will take a few extra resources. Just off the top of my head, you have to have a place to house these dogs, you have to have a person to feed them, and, eventually euthanize them. We do have, in place to use Andalusia, shelter, but their shelter stays pretty full with just what they keep here in their city. But I'm willing to work anything else I can out with y'all. We do go out to these calls as far as, and we are limited. I'm not gonna go out there shoot somebody's dog. That's just not gonna do that. But she does have a concern. And, it was, election day, the last election day, I got bit by one myself. And, I didn't have a lot of repercussion to do on that. So it's something to really think about, guys.
Okay. Thank you. We have no awards and presentations. Comment from other elected officials. I think we have two. We just heard from the sheriff. Anything else you want to bring at this time, Sheriff? You good? Mr. Patterson, what do you have for us from the Revenue Commissioner's office?
We closed out 2022 tax sale. We sold 71 parcels. The taxes owed were $27,089.80. We had excess amount of $613,000 on those 71 parcels. So we'll continue. Some will come in the next 5 days. There's a 5-day grace period that they get to come back and redeem their property. Then at that point, it starts charging interest. But we'll keep working on them and see how many more we can get back in. But next thing we'll go to the county commissioners is we'll be doing final settlement for year 2022. We'll give y'all all the numbers that we've reported for the whole year. And we'll also give y'all a list of insolvents for business personal property where we can advertise that in Leisure Star News. This is something y'all do every year. And that's our next 2 steps.
Okay. Any questions for Chuck while he's at the microphone?
Chuck, is that about an average that we sell
Yeah,
roughly a year?
yeah, it's close. I think it was in the 60s last year. It's been as high as the 90s. I think the first year I was in it was 90. So
What's the percentage of those that are retained by the people that purchase them at the sale?
I'd have to look at the numbers, Tommy. I don't really know, but if I had to guess, somewhere about it varies, you know, because it seems like COVID with more people passing away and can't find their families and that sort of thing. It seems like maybe there's not as many people coming back to redeem that property. But I wouldn't want to give you a number right now, but we can look at it and see.
Just curious, I mean, ballpark, 20%?
Sure. On a different subject, I've got some emails and I've even got some letters of people that's wanting to buy parcels of land.
Yeah.
What is that about? Is that a scam, or is that some of this title taken from people?
It
or
really,
what is that?
you know, the only mail that you're gonna get from us is real, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this is people want.
I'm just
like
saying all this
realtors.
other mail, I don't know anything about the other mail. It could be scam, it could be okay, it could be good. I don't know. I don't wanna make that decision right here in front of everybody, but, you know,
I
from
just
my
wish y'all had
standpoint.
heard anything on
Yeah,
this.
from my
because I've got
standpoint, you
some
wanna
letters.
make sure that you check on your property. That's why we asked everybody to assess their property every year, to look at what's there. You know, make sure the names are correct, because I've been in touch with Madison County, which y'all know Huntsville's got plenty of money. They've gone in with the probate office, and I'm trying to look at it from our standpoint to see if there's something extra we can lock down properties, because they're doing something in Huntsville. And, I called last week to look into that, so give me another week on that, let me see what I can find out, because I'm like y'all, I want everything to be locked down, you know, and I don't want people to be able to, you know, deed their property. But, you know, those things happen and we need to be ready for it, because cyber attacks are getting more and more, I think.
That was my concern, you know, this.
Yeah, we need to keep looking at the security of everything, but please assess your property, because you need to know what properties you have.
Okay.
You know, some people don't even know what they have.
Okay. All right, thank you, Chuck. We have nothing under the consent agenda, so we'll move on to old business. There are a couple of board appointment opportunities for us. One is the 911 Board. Commissioners pages 3 through 11 are various applications and expressions of interest in appointments to the 911 Board. There are 2 slots that are at the end of their term, and we need to either reappoint or newly appoint members for the 911 Board. And y'all had some time to consider that, and I know there's been a good deal of discussion over the last couple of weeks with various individuals. What are your thoughts on that?
I know and have actually, in the profession I was in, worked with, I guess, every one of these that we have turned into us. I think they're all very capable of doing the job. Just looking back through it, Wayne Godwin is actually the chairman of it right now, and I know Wayne has been on the 911 board for, gosh, I'd hate to say, but almost since the since the beginning of the 911 board, is not far from that. I think Wayne does a good job. I'd like to see Wayne, I make a motion that we reappoint Wayne on the first, and then we'll look at the others.
All right, there's a motion to reappoint Wayne Godwin for another term. Do you remember how long the terms are, Karen?
They vary, but I think it's 4 years, is that
I think
correct?
we just looked at the bylaws, hold on just a second, Hector.
4 and 6.
Probably a 4-year term.
I think it's a
Okay.
4-year term.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second to reappoint Wayne. Anybody have anything on that? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That'll carry 4-0. I heard 4 ayes. There is a second seat on the 911 board at this time, and let's see what your thoughts are on it.
Again, I know these, and we'll go just going through and looking at the applications. You have Kyle Lowndes, who's actually a member, who's on there now. I don't know exactly how long Kyle's been on there, but he's been on there several terms, I think.
Started as a commissioner, I think, so
And then-
probably 6 years.
And
7.
then Ken Harris is the other one who's definitely been in law enforcement and been dealing in the county his whole life also. So, with that being said, I'm open for suggestions, to let y'all look at them, or I would, knowing Ken, been knowing him a long time, been knowing him better than I know Kyle, that would be my motion, but I would like to hear your opinions on it.
I mean, do we have any issues with something not being done?
I spoke with Stacy yesterday, she had gone back to the last 5 meetings, and Wayne was in perfect attendance, and I think Kyle had missed 1 meeting, so they both attend.
I mean, as far as the
Faithful
business
board
being
members.
handled, is everything being handled as it needs? Or
I
there
think-
needs that we need that need to be addressed? If not, you know, what do we need, I mean,
Kenneth, I think the understanding I have is that these are good members, and there's no major conflict that I'm aware of on the 911 board at this time, but,
that was my, you know, if everybody, if the board is working and it's doing what it's supposed to, then.
It has its up and downs, let's put it that
well,
way.
it's a public board, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure.
So that was my question, what was, if there's any complaints, what the complaints is, and if there's no complaints, do we need to change anything?
According to one of the applicants, there seems to be something going on, needs to be looked at by the commission. I don't know what that is, I haven't spoken with that applicant. So I don't know. Is there?
Is that statement on this, in these documents here?
On the application, yes. The application by Tabitha Cross with the letters of recommendation that she has is pretty impressive. With her experience and wasn't there some from last meeting that are not here? in
They
this
didn't turn
packet?
in, they didn't turn in the paperwork.
These are the only applicants that, had turned in paperwork to our office.
Brandon Holland didn't turn in anything?
He never came and brought me anything. I think you said something about email, but I don't recall seeing an email in it.
Yeah, he sent an
He
email.
had mentioned many times in the past he was interested.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was, what's the protocol, is it to fill out this
According to
application?
y'all, in the last meeting, y'all decided that would be,
That was it? Okay.
that's what y'all,
I mean, like I said, nobody has had any really real issues, you know, if Kyle's doing the job, you know, I'd say appoint Kyle back into that position.
So is that a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
That's a
And
motion.
I made one earlier for Ken.
You did make one? I didn't catch that as a motion, I'm sorry. So we have a motion to appoint Kyle and a motion to reappoint Kyle and a motion to appoint Ken Harris.
Do we do all the motions at one time?
Well, we're just taking names for it, and let's see where it goes, yeah. You got one? Lynn, you have one?
I don't. I think they're all fine people.
Yeah.
But I kind of agree with Kenneth about it. If there's not a problem, then let's leave it alone. If there is a problem, then we need to know what the problem is.
know of a problem there, Michael?
Yeah,
There's
we're
a
all
few
looking at
issues.
you.
Huh?
There's a few issues that we can discuss at a.
So that the applicant is on point about,
There is,
we
but
need
both
to-
these guys are good,
oh, of course, yeah.
good candidates, by all
Yeah.
means.
Could we have both of them?
One go to one meeting, one go to the
That's
other.
right,
one.
I can solve the problem. We just have both.
I just think we got people that want to serve.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. Instead of having to hunt somebody.
That's what I was gonna say, a lot of these other boards, we don't have anybody we can get to serve, and this one, we actually have several qualified candidates.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I don't have a motion for
I don't either.
another one.
Okay, so we're considering two applicants for this seat.
And it has to be done at this meeting, or can it, cause then we could all,
We could all talk about it by, no, you don't want to do that. It doesn't have to be, but I think that their terms are up at the end of this month, if I remember correctly, so obviously it'd be good to.
Stacy, when will the next actual 911 meeting be?
In July.
Okay. I don't know where to go. We have a motion, and I didn't realize yours was a
That's
motion. I heard a motion to reappoint Kyle, and I heard a motion to consider Ken, and we've gone nowhere from there.
I'll make a second on Ken.
Second to Ken, motion, all right. So, I don't know exactly how to handle it, but we'll just say that we have a motion and second to appoint Ken Harris, and, we can vote. Or we can vote on both of them at one time and see where it goes.
Go ahead and vote on
Let's-
that one motion.
Let's vote on the motion that we have on the table. So there's a motion and second to appoint Ken Harris to this open seat. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I heard two. All opposed, same sign.
No.
2-2. Holy smokes, almost like a
Yeah,
tie.
buddy.
This be number 3?
I love this one.
I'll vote, I'll vote against Ken and ask that we reconsider and open it back up for the other motion. So there's a motion, if there's a second on Kyle.
Were they ever second on Kyle?
No, there hadn't been yet, so we have a motion, to consider reappointing Kyle Adams.
Let's talk about parking lots. How about-
I know. This is tough. I make the second.
All right, there's a motion and a second.
I know what's gonna happen.
Do you, already?
Yeah, already. We're gonna go 2 and 2, and you're gonna make the decision.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, all in, so let's poll for the vote, please. Kenneth,
For Kyle?
this is voting on Kyle, that's a yes. Michael?
No.
Lynn?
Yes.
And Tommy?
No.
Well, I'll vote
And
to
it's your
support
Ken
Kyle
vote,
Adams
so I
as, to
understand.
be reappointed to fill that term. All right? You know, this, just so you'll know, that doesn't happen often. I think it's 3 times in 21 years that I voted on a split vote. It just doesn't happen very often, but.
And I would like to say both these guys are very qualified.
Absolutely.
They are.
Absolutely.
Nothing against them, it was just,
I mean, I'm sure Ken would do great, and but Kyle's doing the job, but, you know, you don't wanna take something away from somebody who's doing something. But then again, I appreciate what Ken does and what he represents too, you know, he's very.
Yeah, I think both would do an outstanding job,
I
so.
hate it when we can't have both of them. I just wished it where there was a spot there. If he could be an alternate or something, if we could do some kind of alternate, that would be great to me. You know, if we had something that we could work in.
All right, let's move on to the appointments for the Board of Equalization. We have 3 members there, and we're not actually making the appointments, we're making recommendations and submitting those, and the appointments are made, I think, by the governor or somebody at the state level. And the current 3 members to this board are Virginia Bronner, Kyle Gant, and Joe Bush. had this on the agenda for several weeks, and maybe you've had a chance to talk to one or some of these, maybe all of them. I did call Virginia. She's had some health issues, but she is willing to be reappointed specifically if we're interested in doing that. So you have those three names, and let's open the floor for any other names that you might have
I have none. I'll make a motion
to reappoint.
to reappoint. We've been trying to find somebody, like you said, for several meetings, you know, talk to people.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Motion and second to reappoint those three or renominate those three for consideration. If there's nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, those are carried. All right, under new business, we need to consider soliciting bids for equipment parts and repair. What does that relate to, Karen?
That would be the engineers department. We have some tractors and different equipment that needs servicing, and right now there's no one on state bid. And so we're looking for a way to get our equipment fixed.
And it's just our John Deere tractors, basically Smith Tractor here locally here at Sun South, have been probably the tool we put the bid out to, as far as finding a local bid, just for like I said, for parts and labor.
So we need, if we're gonna request bids on this, we need to be sure to put turnaround times on it. Either they pick them up, or we set a limit on how far we transport. I mean, I don't want us to be transporting equipment to Leeds, Alabama, because somebody comes in at a light.
We'll put a certain radius on it, kinda like our rock bid we're putting together right now, so.
Just make sure it's enough to cover several in the, the local area.
Are they always having to be delivered? They don't pick up?
We typically deliver, we'd take them to the, wherever they need to be worked on, would it be Montgomery or just wherever.
Yeah, so I know Kubota will pick up.
Well, frustrating to have to bid this type of service.
Yeah,
But
it's just
it's
the bid law that we live in.
A lot of things have changed, and this is where the examiners of public accounts are. I'm not sure that it's correct, but that's where we are, so we're bound by this. So is there a motion to approve soliciting bids for equipment, parts, and repair?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Questions or comments on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, that's approved. What else?
This next item, consider purchase of equipment. We had a tractor and a bush hog to go down to a fire. Had a total loss of a tractor and partial loss, would end up being a total loss on the bush hog as well. So I just need to look at either Sourcewell or either our state bid. I'm looking at red, orange, and green tractors right now on what's best for us.
What size tractor are you looking to come back?
About 110, 120 horsepower tractor, what we're looking at. That's roughly the range we're looking at. But it'll be all apples to apples when we'll make it where everybody can bid on it. Or we can look at all comparable machines. So
what about Sourcewell?
it's just another joint bid, but we can reach out, look at Sourcewell as well to see which one may be cheaper, the state bid versus or Sourcewell. I just request we bid a look at both of them.
What size bush hogs do you pull?
They're 15 footers.
Okay.
Are we looking at new tractors or state bids, or what we're looking at?
New tractor. Look at new tractor on this one.
What was the age of this one that burned?
It's pretty old.
It was
Probably a
14. I think it was a 14.
14, yeah,
So it's
14 or
really
16.
Bought it about 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah. We've been buying most of these tractors off the state surplus. Most of the tractors got about 2,000 hours or less on them. But again,
Adjuster was very pleased with the low hours and all as far as it being.
they're all good low hours machines.
So this was an insured loss, so we should get something from
Yes.
it, but we don't know that amount yet, but we still need the equipment to
Yeah.
operate because stuff's going. So is there a motion to approve the purchase off of either the state bid or Sourcewell bid, whichever gives the lowest cost?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other questions or thoughts on what we need to do on that? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, that's approved.
I don't know, what about availability? Have we even checked on that?
I think that we can get them pretty quick,
I know
way it looks like.
I think cab tractors are pretty good. I know we run into the issue with the open station tractor, and they're kind of stale right now. But I think the cab tractors, but it goes back to what style you getting to, if you're gonna get category you get, if you get the better, you know, for what we asking for.
Right.
You can get your E models and John Deere's, or you can get your M's, and you got more E's.
There's
you
a big
do M's.
difference in price too between the E and the M's on
Yeah.
John Deere's, so,
That's what I'm thinking, what are we looking at in timeframe?
yeah.
If there's a problem on it where you are looking at a substantially more costly item because of limits or something, how about bringing that back to us? But otherwise, if it's as expected, then I think we're ready to move on.
What caused the fire? Do you know?
Yeah, what caused
Don't know, it just, the operator the other tractor operator behind him saw it burning from beneath, it was underneath the cab of the tractor. And when he opened the door, all he could do was get out, cause it went up just like that. I mean, the fire department was very quick to respond to get to us, and I'm thankful for our volunteer fire department, so they were there right on the scene pretty quick after it happened. But it was a total loss, I mean, it was just nothing but a skeleton out there.
Did it damage the bush hog tooling or?
Yeah, it damaged it, yeah. He just couldn't get it unhooked.
You said
I mean,
enough to total it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Total the bush hog. Okay.
All right, what other reports do you have from your department?
Just on 107 projects moving along good. I actually put in our grades for our red base dirt, because we're gonna come back with 6 inches on top of that. We've set those grades yesterday on that section of road that we're working on. We got about 2 inches up there last night, but the sandy, the nature of that soil up there, we're actually working today. We can work up there pretty much. They're blowing and going on that one still, so we're making very good progress up there. I haven't heard back from Jason. He met with the local contractor we're using that'll be paving the nature trail. Hopefully that'll be done next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
It could be this Friday. I'll try to get an update, because he met him at 7:30 this morning, but he hasn't responded, so.
Okay.
But that's project's come along. We've got our pipes in on on Glen Chambers Road. We gotta put one pipe in on Hadaway, and both those rebuild projects will be ready to be paved.
Good.
And then this Lynn's money for the ARPA money for, that'll coincide with that Glen Chambers Road project. We're gonna do some extra work on Glen Chambers and Old Farm Road with the money that she received from ARPA funds.
So we're in pretty good shape on the rebuild projects. We're making good progress.
When do you think you'll start with one, Coleman?
I told one of the landowners, I emailed one of the, I think I told her 4 to 5 weeks, but it may be sooner. 'Cause one of the pans, we're getting real close on that 107 section. I'm getting that, all the most of the dirt moved, so I can start pulling those pans off and start putting them toward these other paving projects like that. So, but I told her probably 4 to 5 weeks we could be up there probably to start getting that road ready to do something with that one.
My roads.
And yours too, yes, yes. That'd be right after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe we'll start a fight over road improvements.
That feels like we're in arm wrestling for Tommy.
All right, thank you,
Yep.
Lynn. We appreciate the work. Any other department heads have anything?
We have our LAPC hurricane meeting tomorrow in this
Okay.
room
What time was that again?
at 9:00. Let all of y'all.
That's the statewide?
No, this is the county
Yeah.
one. We had this.
Statewide was last week, wasn't it?
It was good too.
Good.
They were very impressed with the
Good.
facilities and
Good.
probably will have it here.
Again. Good deal. Good. All right, anything else, commissioners? Mr. Attorney, you have anything?
I do.
Karen, what you got?
I have ALQHA, which is the Quarter Horse Association, is having their summer sizzler this weekend. They'll be in town, coming in, probably Thursday, start Friday, go through Monday. Usually they do not charge admission, so anyone can go out and watch their events.
And then the following week,
We have high school finals, and then the following week from that, we have junior high finals, and then we have another Southern Ring Cow Horse Alliance the week after that. So we have a busy couple of weeks coming up.
and the week after that, you have
Horse
Tub
sale, Tub Dennis Horse Sale.
Dennis Horse Sale.
Are we
So-
making enough money to cover
5 weeks.
our expenses?
I think we are.
I think, okay,
I think we're
good. I
doing
just
really well.
wanna make sure everybody realizes
There's
that.
certain seasons, and I don't think people realize that with the horses that I didn't know either until working in this, but there's a pattern that they use of where they are at different times, and it's just different times for us. There'll be a lull in the summer, you'll have a few local events coming in, but the main things are finishing up in the spring, and then they start back in the fall.
So overall, Karen's done an excellent job in bringing in events to fill it. And I think we've done very good since we've taken it back over.
People seem to be pretty happy with our facility.
Thank you, Karen.
All
Mr.
right.
Larry does a lot to keep them happy.
Anything else? Commission? If not, a motion to adjourn will be in order. Thank you, Ken. We stand adjourned.